I am on a mission to unlock every single achievement in Doom Eternal in 2025. And with Doom the Dark Ages creeping over the horizon, what better time to revisit the game that once quite literally beat my cheeks into submission. Released on March 20th, 2020, developed by id Software and published by Bethesda, this was the second game in the rebooted franchise after Doom 2016, and it completely redefined the series. Gone was the classic run-and-gun formula, and in came the high-octane, high-flying demon ballet, an acrobatic bloodbath with more explosions, combos, and mid-air double dashes than a Marvel movie that's done more than a few lines of the Devil's Dandruff. Doom Eternal hits like a masterclass in chaos, but despite being the absolute pinnacle in the FPS genre, it still had some pretty annoying shortcomings. Platforming overkill with fire poles that could incite a cease and desist from Nintendo, perpetual tutorial pop-ups that were more intrusive than a rogue finger at the bottom of a dog pile, and let us not overlook the fact that someone sanctioned the Doomslayer speaking.
Kill them. Must kill them all.
What the fuck? You speak English?
But I was determined and decided to re-enter hell itself as one of the most iconic and overpowered characters of all time in Now, the game doesn't have any difficulty-specific achievements, meaning anyone could do everything on easy and make this a total walk in the park, but that's not my style. So with the decision to go full masochist mode, our first mission was to get all 26 achievements tied to the main campaign, with a small side quest, redeeming my shame for quitting the campaign back in 2020, because this wasn't my first rodeo, which came with a silver lining. I had actually already knocked out a ton of these achievements from my first run, back when the hype was fresh and my aim was slightly better. Additionally, I had already played through the majority of the game on nightmare difficulty, so I had an idea of what I was in store for. I had already beaten missions up to Nabad, which that alone had bagged me 7 achievements, but it didn't stop there. During that campaign, I also collected every record, codex, and sentinel battery, snagged 20 extra lives through a single playthrough, executed 33 unique glory kills, found the Maykrs secret weapon, which was the BFG's little brother, completed a Slayer Gate, then completed all of them, maxed out my Praetor suit and every other upgrade I could find. So heading into this challenge, I wasn't starting from absolute zero. We just simply needed 5 more achievements, plus everything from the DLC that's released since then. But those last 5 achievements weren't going to go down easy because we were continuing this run, as I stated before, on Nightmare. Oh, okay. Well, that one was pretty easy. But the rest of them were going to go down hard. My OCD really failed me on this. And after cleaning up that achievement, it was time to dive headfirst into the action, right where I left off, Nabad. The mission? Retrieve the Slayer's Crucible, a weapon powered by raw hell energy, or at least that's what Google told me. But my real apprehension about starting here wasn't the level itself, it wasn't the mob fights, and it wasn't the platforming. It was him.
I'm a rape, ya bitch!
Fast and aggressive, blocks just about everything you shoot at him. This was the sole reason I quit the game back in 2020. And as the resurrected husks of the former Night Sentinels, corrupted by the Hell Priest and Khan Maykr, Marauders come equipped with a vast amount of tools in their kit to make anybody's run, well, a nightmare. The Marauder was single-handedly one of my most hated enemies of the entire game. Invincible shields, shotgun, energy axe, and even had the ability to summon a fucking Pokemon.
Pika pika!
The pressure was immense. But to my surprise, I was actually able to take the Marauder down in as little as 5 tries, which was great for my mentality moving into this challenge. As for the rest of the level, imagine navigating a hallway with the floor composed of broken Legos and chopped habaneros. Then and only then can you begin to imagine how grueling things could be at times, especially when Archviles show up. And that's because, as if the battlefield wasn't rough enough, Archviles firmly believe in never leaving a hole vacant. And on top of balancing survival and not getting stuffed like a Thanksgiving turkey, Archviles also summon more enemies to the battlefield and send them into a murder frenzy, which means you either watch your 6 or you're bending over and picking up sticks. We then grabbed our Crucible hilt and before heading out made a quick pit stop to grab one of the last collectibles, the final piece to our Doom Guy toy shrine. From there, we powered up our Crucible Blade and gave it a proper test run against the unlucky wave of demons who picked the worst possible time to spawn in. Then, after making our way through Necroval and having a near miss and probable vigorous Eiffel Towering, we meet up with the Khan Maykr, who's made the mistake of trying to download the Icon of Sin without fiber internet. And expertly utilizing this window of opportunity, the Slayer stops the Maykr from gaining control of the Icon of Sin, utilizing a
Very nice.
Then, after the Icon of Sin goes into Tesla autopilot mode, our goal shifts focus to taking out the Khan Maykr, which for a being who could live up to a millennia, one would expect them to have a bit more diversity in terms of combat. And I'll elaborate on that, starting with the bread and butter of this boss's attacks, a 4-hit combo, of which she has more loyalty to than Sydney Sweeney to her ex-fiancé. She also specializes in playing the floor as lava once her health reaches about the halfway point, meaning proper footing was paramount during this entanglement. Then there was her most annoying ability, in which she summons a freaking Hammer of Dawn from Gears of War. Then, after enthusiastically proving that cartel-level violence does solve world-ending problems, we dove headfirst into a portal to chase down the Icon of Sin, who, fun fact, just so happens to be the Icon of Cake. Now, this final stretch was a marathon of mayhem. Rockets, lasers, flames, everything was pure carnage. Every second a sheer test of willpower. And with the end in sight, and those supple, juicy cheeks from the Icon silently testing my virtues, this level leading up to the final confrontation demanded the utmost level of focus and accuracy. Is this guy gonna frickin' cook me, honestly? But all joking aside, it was time to lock in this final confrontation with the Icon of Sin. There we go. Oh, he's really mad about that one. What other armor does he have? Please, can I have a smidge of, oh shit, smidge of ammo. What's his last body part? His frickin' chest? Oh my god, dang it, dude. What's his last body part? He has 2 left somehow. I don't know which ones they are. He's just a hunk of meat. I got nothing left. What? Give me the life, give me the life. Oh my god, I think I did it. Yes. Finally. We locked him down. And with the Icon of Sin finally down and my honor reinstated, we could finally shift focus back to achievement hunting. We jumped into a random level to wrap up one of the first of 3 loose ends. All right. Got it. One shot. Master all weapon mods in a single save slot. We then proceeded to get the only achievement that requires altered gameplay, an achievement where you must activate a specific cheat that makes it so enemies drop no health and no armor. Pair that with nightmare difficulty and you got yourself a 1-2 punch that most would not fare well from. Then all that was left to do was play the entire game again on permadeath mode and have at least 10 extra lives in reserve, which netted us the running up the high score achievement. And a pretty funny thing actually happened when I completed the permadeath run, because I was offline when I beat the game, and since the game wasn't synced, it didn't pop the achievement, which resulted in me having a small heart attack. And I thought this was a good time to take a break from nightmare difficulty and take on the Horde mode, because it simply had 3 achievements to get. And I say Horde mode loosely because this thing was clearly designed by someone who's never actually played a Horde mode before. No waves, no base defenses, just Doom Eternal with more obstacle courses. Quite honestly, I thought this layout felt more in line with the story mode of Super Smash Bros. Than a Doom Horde mode, but hey, what do I know? I just make YouTube videos. Now, the first achievement was simple enough: beat the first level of Horde mode, which felt less like a challenge and more like a desperate please try this mode plea. Next up was reinvent the wheel, which after completing certain sections of each stage, we spin a wheel, giving a chance at getting a bit of your arsenal back. Then for the coup de grace, all we needed to do was beat Horde mode to get the game over achievement. And with all of those achievements down, it was finally time to begin the Ancient Gods DLC, where here we had 7 achievements in total, all similar to the main campaign, either requiring us to find collectibles, beat certain levels, which is all pretty simple in its own right. The real challenge was going to be beating this on Nightmare mode. But some of you may be asking, how much harder are enemies on Nightmare? So here's the breakdown. Enemies in Doom Eternal on Nightmare difficulty have increased damage input, meaning they're going to make you pay for your mistakes. Accuracy is significantly higher, making it hard to dodge dodge attacks. The AI of the enemy is more aggressive, making them faster acting and attacking more frequently. Enemies with special attacks use them more often. They're more resilient, taking more bullets to take them down, and enemy mobility is increased. Now we begin this journey by learning about the Seraphim and that we need to track them down to stop the dimensional conquest of Earth and close the gates of Urdak for good. And considering the Slayer's plot armor is thicker than the skull of a Pachycephalosaurus, or Jeff Bezos' forehead, this should be a walk in the park, right? Well, the problem is that's completely wrong because everything wants to enter my body through its exit. The combat was tighter, the arenas smaller, and the enemy density was thicker than the Icon of Sin's digital dump truck. It also didn't help that tyrants would spawn into the smallest areas ever. Are you serious? How is this fair? That is ridiculous. Protoss threw me into the frickin' deep end. To defeat the tyrant, bro, look at the pro tip. Freaking trolling. But despite the steep difficulty curve and the fact that most enemy arenas overstayed their welcome more often than not, I managed to not rage quit and make our way through the first level, gathering all of the codexes and completing the side encounters, including the painfully difficult Slayer Gates. And for those unfamiliar, Slayer Gates are like the demonic version of Iron Chef, except rather than cooking, it's combat, and instead of ingredients, it's things being inserted into me from every angle imaginable. With things getting so aggressive at times, it had me questioning whether or not these were called Slayer Gates because it was behind some big metal doors or because I needed to protect my Slayer Gate. But with demonic colonoscopies put on hold, this level wraps up with arguably the longest battle I've ever experienced thus far, complete with two marauders playing who can touch my belly button from the inside. Spoiler, they both touched it at the same time. And as we walk funny to the husk of a body that Samuel Hayden will now take over, we complete this stage and unlock the Torrential Pain achievement. Yes! Torrential Pain. It's funny there's like not enough people have played this game to where just beating the DLC is a diamond achievement in its own. Our next mission takes the Slayer into the Blood Swamps, where among the first to greet you is a phallic-like tentacle whose stature alone suggests it's the friend your girl tells you not to worry about. We then follow an auspiciously friendly ghost dog into the breeding grounds of the local Mancubi, who have been resident in the area for so long that the atmosphere has become densely packed with a mixed aroma of Taco Bell inside a Spirit Halloween store. Luckily though, the ghost of Lassie was a specialist in dispersing gas by hopping into a bird bath. But the overarching mission was to collect two halves of a single coin, and once joined together would lead us to the Father's Sphere, which our mortally challenged Spirit GPS eventually led us to, while also perpetually leading us through demonic ambushes. And of course, before leaving each area, we needed to ensure we were still collecting codexes and clearing any encounters as we progressed into an area that was the toughest yet in the run. And guys, this is the part of the video where I'm going to be real with you for a second, because when this took place, it happened at the end of an 8-hour stream, and I was feeling frustrated, angry, my hands were hurting because Nightmare is pretty demanding on your phalanges, and I really just needed to call it a night. So it actually was a blessing in disguise that the game crashed at this time. So I just want to say that it's good to have a good night's rest, and when a game is really weighing on you, just take a break from it all, because gaming is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something that we can use to escape real life for a little while. We all have different reasons of why we play games, but I'm pretty positive in saying that we don't play them to be mad. So the next time you feel like you're not having fun, just put the controller down for a little while, guys. I promise when you come back to it, you will play better. And I'll even use this arena as an example, because after the game crashed, I called it a night, woke up the next day, played it offline, and it only took me like maybe 2 or 3 more attempts to get it down. We were then able to collect the first half of the coin. From here, we simply needed to boot up the Ghost Dog GPS again, fight through the trenches, and then after doing pretty much the exact same thing on the other half of the stage, because game padding, we were able to collect the second half of the coin. And after fighting for our lives for what seemed like an eternity, we smashed a box, but not in the cool way, then took a rather suspicious ride up to some kind of orb heaven, smashed the Father's Sphere because fuck you, Hayden, then grabbed the Dark Lord Sphere and headed our way to the next mission. We now find ourselves in the Hold, which is the last level in the Ancient Gods Part 1, which is a location on the far edges of Urdak that includes a path to the Luminarium, where we use the Dark Lord Sphere to return him to physical form, you know, so we can murder him. And among the first to greet us is a new variant of the loot pinatas, but they are completely invulnerable to damage, and for some reason they actively choose to leave this state to shoot some Antichrist crosses at me. And some elder millennials would probably say that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it pays off. Spoiler, it doesn't pay off. Then after parkouring off of some of the local jungle jellyfish, our perseverance was about to pay off. We were able to secure the Lucky Charm bracelet for collecting all of the runes, Hypersonic for completing all of the secret encounters, and required reading for getting all of the codex pages. And at last, it was finally time to put Samuel Hayden, aka the Seraphim, down for good. And with Doom's Patient Zero of Skynet finally offline, we completed the Ancient Gods DLC Part 1, unlocking the Regime Change achievement. Then we simply needed to run through the game one more time in the permadeath mode with 5 extra lives to spare to unlock the one-upsmanship achievement. And I'm going to be fully transparent, my morale for completing this was pretty high at this point, moving into Ancient Gods Part 2. But this DLC takes everything about Ancient Gods Part 1 and exacerbates it by about 10-fold, most of which is taken up by new enemy variants, like the Armored Baron, who is equipped with the Assmaster 5.0 on his right arm. Luckily though, by never exposing my back to him, my Slayergate's possible damnation became my salvation. Another encounter of note throughout this DLC was the sheer procreation rates of the imps had skyrocketed, and as a result from possible inbreeding, birthed a new variant who unfortunately was allergic to the mulching setting of the shotgun. And despite having a new ability that could call for Sega to send a cease and desist, they failed to be much of a challenge. Then, after fighting for my life in a bird bath that was filled with demon procreation gel, we collected the Big Bonk, concluded the level, and collected the Crystal Spelunker achievement. However, this is where the stage proved to be somewhat of a breaking point for me. Enemy variety seemed to be catered especially toward keeping me on the back foot, and with some sections taking almost an hour or more to get past, my mental capacity for constant slaughter was starting to add up. This was then only exacerbated by another new enemy variant. This was the Cursed Prowler, whose touch was so vile it restricted the Slayer of all of his abilities until the enemy was dealt with. It was truly cancerous. But despite the demon's enthusiasm to use me as a Doomslayer blow-up doll, I was able to get past this section and insert the crystal into the panel, thus summoning an interdimensional transport that had premarital levels of suction. And with that completed, we are now moving into the end game of this DLC, which I actually find kind of ironic because we get to bear witness to a siege scene that looks like you drew the final scene of Endgame from memory. And it was this section of the game where we get our next achievement, which was to complete the upgrades for the Sentinel Hammer, aka the Big Bonk, by completing the secret encounters. We cleared the stage to get the Siege the Day achievement, then all we needed to do to wrap up this campaign was defeat the Dark Lord. And let me tell you something about this fight, it was doo-doo pee-pee water. And not because the fight itself was some kind of combat puzzle that was difficult to navigate, but because this was quite literally the most thrown together piece of shit enhanced Marauder fight where you don't get to choose when you want to deal damage to him. You have to wait for the Dark Lord to do a specific attack that makes him vulnerable, all while dodging all of his other attacks because they have a lifesteal ability. Couple that with the fact that the Dark Lord needs to wear armor into battle and summon a gangbang to even stand a chance against the Doomslayer, and you got yourself some math that isn't mathing. Then to round out the achievements for the Ancient Gods DLC Part 2, I needed to complete the game again on permadeath mode, making sure I had 5 extra lives in reserve. Then also during that run, I actually missed one of the codexes for the critical literature achievement, so I made sure to scoop that up as well. And just like that, the end was finally in sight, and all that stood before me were a few multiplayer achievements in a game that's nearly 6 years old. And luckily, by the power of social media, I was able to summon a few friends to play the multiplayer with me, and as luck would have it, you can unlock these achievements in private matches. So one by one, the dominoes began to fall, starting with the Mix and Match achievement, which required us to play as 5 different demons in battle mode. And most of these achievements were actually really easy to get. Man vs. Monsters was play 25 matches. Weapons Expert required you to get a kill with each of the 8 weapons in battle mode as the Slayer. But Truce Between Demons took some time because it required you to heal yourself or a teammate for 50,000 health. Then contrastly, you needed to do 5,000 damage as the Slayer, which wasn't too bad because the Ballista did about 500 damage per shot, and I was switching between that and the Super Shotgun. But by far the grindiest achievement to get in this game was get 200 kills in battle mode. And I know that I prefaced earlier that you can get these achievements in private modes, but my curiosity got the best of me. And at one point early on, I actually queued up, wondering if anyone was actually still playing this game. And to my surprise, there were. And then it all came down to needing 2 final kills. And it just so happened that a friend of mine stream sniped his way into my game, so I made sure to flex on him in the most Doom way possible. That's 1!
Yes! Bloodbath!
So can you get all of the achievements in Doom Eternal in 2025? The answer is absolutely yes, and the fact that the multiplayer achievements can be unlocked in private matches, meaning if anybody wanted to pick up Doom Eternal and get these achievements themselves, they could absolutely do it, and I would encourage it because this was actually really fun to do. Doom Eternal is by no means a perfect game, but this was a really fun challenge to do, and I would encourage anyone who is a Doom fan to try it for themselves. And if you guys liked this video, you should watch this one next.